Hi everyone, it's me, Tim, and today I want to talk about discoverability. Let me tell you what I mean by that. When I started working in the game industry in the 80s, you would be lucky if a new computer role playing game came out once a month. Usually there were only a few a year. So once one came out, you usually had to wait a couple months, maybe even longer, for another one to come out. That was true for almost all the genres, except the most simplest, like arcade like games, where several of those came out a month. Now, compare it to now, where if you included DLCs and expansions and the mobile market, you could probably play a new RPG every day. And I don't think I'm exaggerating. So let's take a look at this from both sides. Let me talk about why there are so many games right now. It has never been easier than right now to make a game, even to make a game by yourself. And I've talked about this in a million other videos, so I'm not even sure which ones to link to, so let me summarize. There are so many free game engines out there. Unity, Unreal, Godot, Game Salad. I'm sure I'm forgetting ones. So there's a ton of engines. There's a ton of free tools to get, for processing art and doing 3D art and processing video and sound. There are asset marketplaces. Unity has one and Unreal has one. There are more where you can go and buy art or code or scripts or whatever you need to make your game that you're not good at making. And then finally, when you have made a game, instead of having to go find a publisher or worry about how to get it into the market, you just do digital distribution on Steam or the Epic Game Store, Good Old Games, wherever you want to do it. And that not only gets you access to the whole market, it gets you access to the whole world. Now, at that point, you're going to want to localize it, but even then, if you just do it in English, there's a lot of places that will buy it. So, this has resulted in the market being flooded. Absolutely, totally, 100% flooded. You're not only competing with all the other game developers who now find it very easy to make a game, not just your peers, not just experienced game developers who've quit and are working from home and making their own game solo, but you're competing with everybody on the planet who's doing that. Because someone can make a game in China or Australia or South America and put it on Steam and have it released right here in the United States, where there's a big market, always hungry for new games. So the market is completely flooded. And that makes discoverability really, really, really hard. And a big part of that is the fact that there are so many games and they're hard to find is because of the lack of traditional gatekeeping. The things that used to prevent new games from literally being able for you to purchase are gone. Let me talk about the pros and cons of this lack of gatekeeping. Now, the pros mean you are going to get a lot of new games and a lot of experimental games. And by experimental, I mean you're going to get games with features you may have not seen anywhere else. You're going to get games in genres that you didn't know existed. You're going to get games that mix genres, defy classification, that explore the boundaries of genres. And that's really cool. All these new ideas happening, just enrich the game industry. And it means that if you want a very specific kind of game, like you like playing dating sims with realistic graphics, but are set in fantasy worlds, there's probably a game out there for you. It also means there's a lot of non-traditional games. There's a lot of games in unusual settings or whose demographic is very specific. You don't have to make a game for everyone anymore. You can make a game for a very narrow group of people. And because it's very easy to get your game to market, boom, you can do it. So those are the advantages of the fact that there's no longer any gatekeeping. Now, the cons of gatekeeping are numerous. I talked about discoverability issues. The fact that there's just so many games out there, it's hard for you to find them. Oh, and if you're making a game, it's hard for you to be found. That's horrible because You may make a great game, and if you don't have the budget to market it, or you're not a well-known personal name or company name, no one ever may find you. You'll get buried in the search pages for search engines and the search pages on any of those digital publishing platforms. This also means the lack of traditional gatekeeping means there's no more editorial filters. And by that I mean you can put anything you want into a game. Let me tell you that I've learned over many decades that just because you think of an idea doesn't mean it should go in your game. Many times you have two ideas that contradict each other or that just don't belong in the same game together, and you shouldn't do it. Often, that editorial filter is provided by a publisher or whoever's paying you. It may be your boss, the departmental director of the company you work at, or the owner of the company you're working at, and they're like, hey, I don't want, real time and real time with pause and turn-based all in one game. Pick one and go with it. You may want all of them, but they restrict you to one, which gives you more time to polish that one. So editorial filters, yes, you may go, that's censorship, but in a way, they can be really, really good for you. Making you narrow your feature list and really concentrate on making those features good isn't a bad thing. But let me tell you what the lack of traditional gatekeeping and editorial filters has caused, and that is a torrential flood of bad games. There are really, really, really bad games out there. I see people talking about there's AAA is so bad, I only play indie. Trust me, there are a lot of bad indies out there. There's just a lot of bad games at every tier because people are rushing to get them out. They're not applying filters much anymore because they're like, hey, I can press a button and it can be on Steam today. Why not do that and start making money back? And we'll fix problems later. I mean, there's a whole host of reasons these filters are gone. So I'm not going to get into them now. I'm just telling you, that's why there's so many bad games out there. Yes, there's a ton of games, but a bunch of them, I almost said something else, are really, really bad. And you have to wade through that. So, this isn't just happening with video games. I'm sure if you go to online booksellers or even bookstores, you notice that there's a lot of books coming out by a lot of authors, a lot of series. And a lot of these are either self-published or if they're ebooks, they're self-published, on Amazon and other ebook distributors. There's no editor. And you can sometimes tell. You read an ebook and you're just halfway through it going, ugh. This person, forget spelling and grammatical errors, which still stun me to this day because there's literally a button in every word processor to fix those. Just horrible, extraneous characters and meandering plot lines. Things there aren't a button for. And just wait, AI is going to start writing books if they haven't already. It's just going to flood the market even more. I'm sure if you use any streaming service, Netflix, Hulu, Disney, Amazon Prime, whatever, you're seeing that there are a lot of movies coming out and a lot of bad ones. If you thought, companies like Asylum made bad movies, there's a whole bunch of movies and they're coming from everywhere. They're coming from overseas. They're coming from, tiny production houses in the US. People are filming movies on their iPhones and putting them up on big streaming services. It's just, and forget video, forget going to someplace like YouTube or Vimeo or TikTok or whatever. There's just so much bad stuff out there. And you just have to, it's gotten to the point where a lot of you are probably used to watching 10 bad videos just to get to one good one. It's going to get worse. It's just going to get worse because it's always easier, especially as AI starts inventing fake video and fake books. Eventually they're going to create fake video games. I've heard about a tool coming out where you can just say what you want, say what feature list you want, and the AI will put together a game for you. So what's the solution to all this? I hope you guys don't take what I'm going to say as he's promoting censorship. What I think the solution is curation. I think curation can happen on both ends. When you're making the game, it's really good to have somebody who can have heart-to-hearts with you about features you need to pull back on or time limits you need to obey. If you're going to spend 10 years making your magnum opus game, when you could have made a game in a couple years, put it out there, gotten feedback, and then made an even better game, that may be a problem. But also the curation can happen at the other end. A game can ship, and reviewers can say, this is a good game, this is a bad game, or this is a good game with some bad features, it's a bad game with some good features. I have started using reviewers more and more for everything I do. For books, for movies, for games. I have my favorite reviewers online, on web pages, on YouTube, where I will go before I buy a book or a game, and I go, I just want to see what they think about it. It's really good too because since I already have opinions of a lot of games, I will check reviewers and go, what do they think about these games that I already have a strong opinion? I love this game. Do they love it? I hate this game. Did they hate it? And that helped me find reviewers who match up with my personal tastes. Because, like I've said, there's no such thing as a bad game. There's just a bad game for you. So I found reviewers that match my tastes, and I use them to buy games. This is the only way I'm managing to get games lately. Even some of my friends who suggest games have suggested games. I'm like, I don't like this. You know, I don't like a pre-made main character. You know, I don't like non-linear stories. And they're like, oh, but I think you'd love this game. Okay. Anyway, where I am right now is having a curated list of games in my game queue would be awesome. I still haven't found the perfect reviewer, but I have found some reviewers I really like. And probably not a day and certainly not a week goes by where I don't add a game or a book or a movie into one of my watch and playlists to play later because a reviewer that I really respect liked it. But even then, even using that, my playlists and watch lists are becoming larger than I could ever manage. I really thought I was going to retire and then just play all the new games that came out. I already can't do that. So some form of curation in the form of reviewers is how I'm keeping up with this. It's how I recommend you keep up with it too. Because discoverability, it's a big problem.